In Westbury versus Sanders, the court testified to the fundamental character of the right to vote when it said, "No right is more precious in a free country than that of having a choice in the elections of those who make laws under which, as good citizens, they must leave each other's right, even the most basic, are not real if the right to vote is undermined." Let's talk more about this with our guest on the program today, a legal practitioner, Osahon Ihenye. He says that the right as an individual to vote is the only way Nigerians can express themselves and change a leadership they are not happy with.
Voting is both a right and a civic responsibility. Of course, it becomes a right if you have attained the age of 18. It becomes your right to vote. And of course, your civic and civil responsibility for you to be part of the governance of your country, as it were. So it's a right and a civic and civil responsibility.
Now, at what point can that right be trampled upon?
Well, you can be disqualified from voting if you are not 18 years and above. You cannot vote. That, to my mind, is the only instance whereby you can be disqualified from voting.
How can a voter's right be safeguarded?
You can go to court to make sure you enforce your right, because voting really is another way of expressing yourself. And you have the right to express yourself as guaranteed by the Constitution in Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. So you can go to court if you are 18 years and above and you're not allowed to vote.
I know that there is the Voting Rights Act in the United States. In Nigeria, do we have any provision of the law that particularly set aside for the voter?
We probably do not have a particular law like the Voting Rights Act, but we have the electoral law, which protects your right to vote. And of course, we have the general body of laws in Nigeria, and of course, the ground norm, the Constitution, which gives you the right to express yourself. Under that provision, you can situate the right of the individual. The voter out there needs to know that before now, he or she ought to have been registered to vote. Of course, also before now, although I hear people are still picking up their PVCs, it's supposed to have gone to the designated points to pick up their PVCs. By that I mean permanent voter's card. And if you have done that, then you get ready for the election day. And of course, generally speaking, nobody should compel you to make up your mind to vote for one person or the other, because you have that right also to wait for the election day and cast your vote for a candidate of your own choice. But be reminded that before now, you are supposed to have registered and picked up your PVCs, because INEC says no PVC, no voting.
People who have been disqualified to no fault of theirs, for instance, if INEC did not print their PVCs.
Well, there's nothing you can do if before now you have not registered, and if before now you have not picked up your PVCs. And of course, I hear INEC has even extended the period for which people can go and pick up their PVCs, I think up to 22nd or thereabout. So you still have the opportunity to go and pick up your PVCs. INEC is the organ of government who has the sole responsibility to organize, to register people, register political parties, and of course organize elections. They have said you must use a PVC to vote, that if you do not have it, you cannot vote. You cannot say you have a right to vote and you have refused to abide by the provisions of the rules and regulations of INEC.
Who decides who gets to vote?
What decides who can vote? The Constitution decides who can vote. The Electoral Act decides who can vote, not who. If you are 18 years and above, you're qualified to vote. The law says if you are 18 years and above, you're qualified to vote. The law says if you are a Nigerian, you're qualified to vote. I'm not talking about naturalized Nigerians. If you are Nigerians by birth, you're qualified to vote.
So naturalized citizens cannot vote?
That is the position of the law.
Why?
Because you are not a Nigerian by birth.
But they live in Nigeria.
Well, you live in Nigeria, probably it will need a special dispensation based on how long you have lived in Nigeria. If you were born by Nigerian parents and you're born in Nigeria, being a Nigerian is not only about being born in Nigeria, as it were. If you're a Nigerian by birth, you're a Nigerian parents, you're qualified to vote, and of course, you're also qualified to be voted for.
So if you were born in the United States and you have Nigerian parents?
Of course, you are a Nigerian. You are a Nigerian.
So
it's not about where you were born. You become a Nigerian by having Nigerian parents, Nigerian lineage. Your forebears were Nigerians. Your father, your mother are Nigerians. Of course, you become a Nigerian.
The only exception is for people that naturalized.
Yes, if you now became a naturalized Nigerian, there has to be a special dispensation for you to vote. You know, I mean, probably as to the number of years you've lived in Nigeria and all that, paying your taxes within Nigeria, within the shores of Nigeria and all that. There has to be a special dispensation. But voting, of course, is for Nigerians who are proper, real Nigerians, by birth, parentage, and of course, as to where they come from.
Now, let's quickly talk about absentee voting. That's people living in diaspora. Do you think they should be allowed to vote?
Ordinarily, Nigerians living abroad should be able to vote. But let me say something. Do we have the logistics? Do we have the capacity to make such people vote? No, we don't. Even locally, we're having issues registering voters, giving them PVCs, making sure they are not underage voters, and the rest of it. Just for 1 second, imagine if you were to now open that to Nigerians who live in America, in the Americas, and the rest of it, and Britain. There'll be a lot of issues. And I think we have enough problem to cope with, having only Nigerians within Nigeria vote right now, than for us to now include other Nigerians who are not living within Nigeria. I think we have enough problems coping right now. And for the problems of logistics, and of course for other issues, I think we're better off not having people in diaspora vote.
All right, I would also want to ask this, the right of prisoners to vote. Do you think prisoners should be allowed to vote?
Yes, prisoners should be able to vote. Awaiting trial, people should also be able to vote.
The right goes hand in hand. If you can vote, you should be voted for. So if they can vote, then they should be voted for.
The prison walls, as such, they are regulated. It's unlike other areas. Prison walls are regulated. They are Nigerians. They should not be discriminated against. The Constitution provides that no Nigerian should be discriminated against, either on the grounds of sex,